My beloved child, do not scroll away from this moment. Something has been waiting at the edge of your awareness, something you have felt without being able to name, and what you are about to hear was meant to find you when your heart was finally strong enough to receive it. Stay here, because the silence surrounding your soulmate has begun to break. The secret they buried beneath ordinary conversations, distant glances, unfinished sentences, and nights of restless thinking is rising to the surface. They have reached the point where hiding it hurts more than revealing it, and what they are preparing to confess is connected to a loss that changed your life in ways they understand far more deeply than you ever imagined. You have wondered why their energy sometimes changes around you. You have noticed moments when they look as though they are about to speak and then suddenly retreat behind a smile. You have felt them become quiet whenever the past comes too close to the present. Perhaps you told yourself it was fear. Perhaps you believed they were simply overwhelmed by the intensity of what they feel for you. But there is another reason, my child, and tonight that reason is standing at the doorway of truth. Your soulmate has carried a burden so heavy that even love could not immediately give them the courage to set it down. There is something important you must understand before the revelation comes. Not every secret is born from cruelty. Some secrets begin with one mistake, one moment of panic, one decision made too quickly, followed by years of wishing time could be turned backward. Some secrets become prisons because the person carrying them becomes terrified that telling the truth will destroy everything they still have left. And this is where your soulmate has been living emotionally, somewhere between confession and fear, between love and regret, between the desire to come closer to you and the belief that once you know everything, you may never look at them the same way again. For a long time, they convinced themselves that silence was protecting you. They told themselves that bringing the past into the light would only reopen wounds. They imagined that if they loved you gently enough, supported you quietly enough, and remained beside you faithfully enough, perhaps the truth would somehow lose its power. But truth does not disappear because it remains unspoken. It grows heavier in the dark. It begins appearing in dreams. It interrupts peaceful moments. It follows a person into rooms where no one else knows it exists. That is what has been happening to your soulmate. There have been nights when they have awakened with your name in their mind and a memory in their chest that made it difficult to breathe. They have replayed one particular day again and again. The sounds. The timing. The phone call that followed. The moment they realized something irreversible had happened. And through all of those memories, there has been one thought they could never escape. If you ever discovered how closely they were connected to that moment, would love survive the truth? Listen carefully, because this is where the story begins to shift. The person whose death left an empty place in your life did not disappear from this world because your soulmate intended harm. That distinction matters. Heaven does not show me deliberate cruelty surrounding this confession. What I see instead is a chain of circumstances, a terrible moment, a choice your soulmate wishes they could undo, and consequences that reached farther than anyone expected. Yet in your soulmate's heart, intention has never been enough to erase responsibility. They have told themselves 1,000 times, if I had done something differently, perhaps that person would still be here. And that sentence has followed them for longer than you know. You may now understand why there have been strange moments between you. Why certain stories made them uncomfortable. Why your memories of the person you lost seemed to affect them more deeply than expected. Why they asked questions that felt unusually careful. Why they seemed to know when to stop asking before the conversation reached something too painful. You interpreted those moments as empathy, and part of them truly was empathy. But beneath that empathy was recognition. They knew more. Much more. There is a reason your soulmate never looked surprised when you described certain details surrounding the loss. There is a reason their eyes sometimes carried sadness before you had even finished speaking. There is a reason they once almost told you something and then changed the subject so abruptly that you noticed it for days afterward. Their heart was fighting itself. One part wanted truth. Another part was terrified truth would cost them you. My child, understand the emotional weight of this moment. Your soulmate did not fall in love with you and then casually decide to hide something enormous. Their feelings for you became the very force that made hiding unbearable. Before love grew, they believed the past could remain buried. But the closer they came to you, the more impossible that became. Every act of kindness from you reminded them of what you did not know. Every moment you trusted them made their guilt sharper. Every time you spoke about loyalty, honesty, or second chances, they wondered whether those words would still apply if you knew their entire story. And now they have reached a breaking point. Something happened recently that changed their decision. It was not a dramatic confrontation. No one exposed them. No stranger appeared with evidence. No mysterious person threatened them. What changed everything was far quieter than that. You said something, perhaps without realizing its importance. You spoke from the heart about someone you once lost, or about forgiveness, or about how painful it is when people hide the truth because they think they are protecting someone. Your soulmate heard those words differently from everyone else. Those words found the place they had been hiding from. They went home carrying them. They replayed them. And for the first time, the fear of continuing to hide became greater than the fear of confessing. Imagine them sitting alone after the world had gone quiet. The room was ordinary, but their thoughts were not. They picked up their phone more than once. They opened your conversation. They typed something. Then erased it. Typed again. Erased again. Their fingers hovered above the screen while their mind pictured every possible outcome. You becoming angry. You walking away. You asking why they waited so long. You questioning every memory you shared together. Then another possibility entered their mind. What if you finally understood why they had been carrying so much sadness? What if the truth hurt, but the hiding ended? What if love did not erase consequences, but still created space for honesty? This possibility frightened them almost as much as losing you, because hope is dangerous to someone who has spent years expecting punishment. There is another layer you must hear. Your soulmate's connection to the death was not something they revealed to the people closest to them either. Only a very small circle knew fragments of what happened. Even those people did not understand the full emotional aftermath. Some told your soulmate to move on. Some said it was an accident. Some reminded them that they could not change the past. But none of those words silenced the voice inside them. Because your soulmate remembered something no one else knew. A warning. A moment when they could have made a different choice. That is the part they have never forgiven themselves for. Hours before everything changed, there had been an opportunity to stop the sequence of events. Your soulmate noticed something was wrong. Perhaps it was a mechanical problem, an unsafe situation, exhaustion, a rushed decision, or simply a feeling that something should not continue as planned. They hesitated. They considered speaking up more forcefully. But another person reassured them. Time was running short. Everyone believed things would probably be fine. So your soulmate remained silent. And afterward, that silence became the loudest memory of their life. This is why they use the word responsible in their own heart even when others would call what happened an accident. They are not claiming that they intentionally took a life. They are carrying the belief that they could have prevented a tragedy and did not act strongly enough when they had the chance. That difference may change everything when you finally hear the complete confession. But there is still more. The person you lost and your soulmate crossed paths before you ever realized it. Not closely. Not in the way that would have made the connection obvious. Their lives intersected briefly through circumstances that seemed meaningless at the time. A shared place. A mutual acquaintance. An event. A journey. Something ordinary. Something no one could have predicted would later tie two lives together through grief, love, and a secret. Your soulmate recognized the connection long before you did. The first time you showed them an old photograph, something inside them went completely still. You may not have noticed. They had practiced hiding reactions by then. But their heart recognized the face. For several seconds, they were no longer beside you in the present. They were back there, remembering the day they wished had never happened. Remembering the confusion. Remembering people speaking too quickly. Remembering the moment someone said that there had been a death. And then they looked at you. That was the moment the secret became personal. Until then, they had been carrying guilt about a tragedy. Suddenly they were looking into the eyes of someone who had loved the person who died. Can you understand why they changed after that? Why affection became complicated? Why they wanted to protect you while knowing that the greatest wound between you was something you could not even see? For a while, they considered leaving your life completely. Yes, my child. There was a moment when your soulmate almost disappeared from your path because they believed loving you while keeping the secret was unfair. They convinced themselves that distance would spare you. They nearly chose silence forever. But every attempt to step away only made the connection stronger. They missed you. They thought about your voice. They remembered the way you trusted them with pieces of your heart that you rarely showed anyone. And gradually a different thought began to grow. Maybe destiny had not brought them to you so they could run forever. Maybe they had been brought close enough to finally confront what they spent years avoiding. Do not misunderstand this as a promise that every painful truth has a magical explanation. Some events are simply painful. Some mistakes remain mistakes. Some consequences cannot be transformed into something beautiful merely because love later appears. But even painful truth can become the beginning of honesty, accountability, healing, and a life no longer controlled by secrecy. This is the doorway your soulmate is standing before now. They are no longer asking whether they should tell you. They are asking how. They have rehearsed the first sentence dozens of times. I need to tell you something about the person you lost. No, too frightening. There is something about my past you deserve to know. Too vague. I knew them before I knew you. Not enough. Every version feels impossible because every version leads toward the same moment, the instant they must look at you and admit that they were there when the chain of events began. And once those words exist between you, there is no returning to the version of your relationship where you did not know. That is what scares them. Not only your anger. Not only losing you. They fear seeing your face change. They fear watching trust become confusion. They fear that one confession could erase every good thing they have ever done in your eyes. Yet something inside them now understands that genuine love cannot be built upon selective truth forever. There is another reason the confession is coming now. A date is approaching. A date connected to the person you lost. An anniversary, birthday, remembrance, or simply a season that awakens memories. Your soulmate knows this period affects you even when you do not speak about it. They have watched your energy change around certain days. They have noticed when you become quieter. And every year, their own memories return at the same time. But this year feels different. This year, they do not want to stand beside you in silence while knowing the missing piece of the story. Something inside them has decided that before this season passes, the truth must finally leave their mouth. My child, you are going to need discernment when that moment arrives. Emotion may come quickly. Questions may come faster than answers. You may feel anger, grief, disbelief, sympathy, confusion, or all of them at once. None of those emotions makes you wrong. You do not have to decide immediately what the truth means for your future. Real forgiveness, when appropriate, is not pretending nothing happened. Real compassion does not require abandoning boundaries. And real love does not demand that you silence your own feelings to protect someone else's guilt. Your soulmate knows this. That is why they are not preparing to ask you for instant forgiveness. They are preparing to tell you everything. Or at least, that is what they believe. Because there is one final piece even they have avoided examining. A detail from that day. A detail connected to the last conversation before the death. For years, your soulmate believed they remembered that conversation clearly. They believed they knew exactly what was said. But recently, something resurfaced that challenged their memory. An old message. Not sent to you. Not even written for you. It belonged to someone who was there during the hours surrounding the tragedy. Your soulmate discovered it almost by accident while looking through something they had not opened in years. They were searching for one thing and found another. A forgotten thread. An archived exchange. A timestamp. At first, they stared at it without understanding why it felt wrong. Then they looked at the time. And everything inside them changed. Because according to what they had believed for years, one particular conversation happened after a certain event. But the timestamp suggested the conversation happened before it. That meant the sequence they had carried in their mind might not be accurate. And if the sequence was wrong, then something else was possible. Someone else knew there was danger before your soulmate did. Someone else made a decision. Someone else withheld information. Your soulmate read the message again. Then again. Their hands began to tremble because for the first time in years, the story they had blamed entirely on themselves cracked open. The message contained only a few lines, but those lines changed the meaning of everything. It suggested that the person you lost had already expressed concern. They had already questioned whether they should continue with the plan that day. And they had told someone. Not your soulmate. Someone else. That person answered them. Your soulmate had never seen the reply before. Until now. And what the reply said made them realize that their confession to you can no longer be only about guilt. It may also be about something that was hidden from them. This is where heaven asks you not to rush toward a conclusion, because the truth has layers. Your soulmate may have spent years believing they were solely responsible for something that involved choices made by several people. Their failure to act may still matter. Their regret may still be real. But guilt has a way of simplifying complex tragedies into one sentence: it was all my fault. Sometimes that sentence is emotionally powerful but factually incomplete. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this. And that realization has created a new urgency. They do not only want you to know what they did. They want you to know what they discovered. There is a name connected to that old message. A name you have heard before. When your soulmate saw it, they froze. Because they knew immediately that revealing the full story would not only change the way you looked at them. It could change the way you looked at someone you still trust. This is why the confession has become more frightening than ever. Your soulmate expected to take responsibility. They were prepared for you to blame them. They were prepared to tell you about the warning they ignored, the decision they regretted, the moment they could not undo. They were not prepared to discover that someone close to the situation had known more. And now they face an impossible question. Should they show you the message? Or should they protect you from another betrayal? For one night, they considered deleting it. Not because they wanted to escape accountability, but because they feared what the truth would do to you. Their finger hovered over the screen. They imagined the peace you might lose. They imagined old family memories becoming complicated. They imagined you questioning conversations that happened years ago. Then something stopped them. Your name appeared on their phone. A message from you arrived at the exact moment they were considering erasing the evidence. You had no idea what they were doing. You wrote something simple. Something kind. Something that reminded them who you are. And suddenly they knew they could not destroy the truth. They saved the message. They made a copy. They put their phone down. And they cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. The kind of crying that happens when a person finally realizes there is no more running. That night, your soulmate made a decision. They would tell you everything. The accident. The warning. Their silence. Their guilt. The connection to the person you lost. The message they discovered. The name attached to it. All of it. But before they could reach you, another unexpected thing happened. The person whose name appeared in that old message contacted them. After years of silence. No greeting. No explanation. Only one sentence. Your soulmate read it once, and every ounce of color left their face. Because the message said, "I know what you found, and before you tell them anything, there is something about that night you still don't know." Your soulmate stared at those words until the screen went dark. They had believed they were finally ready to give you the complete truth. But suddenly the truth was moving again. A door they thought had been closed for years was opening from the other side. And behind it was a revelation your soulmate had never prepared themselves to hear. Because minutes later, a second message arrived. This one included a photograph. An old photograph taken on the day everything happened. Your soulmate opened it. At first, they saw nothing unusual. Then they zoomed in. And there, standing in the background beside the person you lost, was someone who had always claimed they were never there. Someone whose presence changes the entire story. Someone your soulmate recognized immediately. And when they whispered that person's name into the silence, they realized the secret they were about to confess to you was only the beginning.